Hey there, it's Nina with Walla Stamping. Thanks for joining me today, and this is the project we're going to be making. I've spent a couple of days on this, just figuring out the measurements and about how big I wanted to make this box. Now, I'm going to go a little non-traditional on the colors for this, and I feel like this could be used certainly as a Christmas gift, but because it is just a snowflake and it's not your typical red and green or silver and gold Christmas colors, you could use it for somebody who has a winter time birthday, or if you maybe have a little anniversary gift or anything like that, that you wanted to present a little gift to somebody. Because it's just snowflakes, black, white, and Pear Pizzazz, I think you could use it for lots of things, but of course you could also use it for Christmas if you choose. Now this one I've used basic black with the Merry Little Christmas Designer Series paper, and I've silver embossed the snowflake and added the rhinestone, and I've used the Pear Pizzazz shimmer ribbon and the Pear Pizzazz cardstock. So let me set this over to the side. I do have a kit all ready to go. It's scored and it has everything in here you need to create this box. And all you have to do to be entered to win this is to go over to my website at Walla Stamping, leave a comment underneath the post for this project, and your name will go into the drawing for this project. So what you're going to start out with is a couple of pieces of basic black cardstock, and both of these are cut to 8.5 by 6.5, and then I've got a scrap piece which was just left over from where I cut these pieces out, and I'm going to be using that for this little black circle here. And then this is just a scrap piece of Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to be cutting out this 1 3/4 inch circle. Then I have my Merry Little Christmas Designer Series paper, and this is the snowflake side. On the back side you can see that there is some type of a branch. This is actually old olive and not Pear Pizzazz, but I just really like the way the Pear Pizzazz looks with the black and white. So I'm going to be using that. The ink I'm going to be using is my basic black, and that is to stamp the to and from on the back of the tag. I'm also going to be using my Versamark and my Embossing Buddy. The blocks that I'm using today are C and an A. I'm going to be using my silver embossing powder. My adhesives is going to be Fast Fuse and Snail and a dimensional. I'm going to be using my Stampin' chalk marker just to do some marking. If you don't have one of these, you could use a gel pen or something like that. And then I have a package of my rhinestones. I'm also going to be using the Pear Pizzazz shimmer ribbon. The stamp set that I'm using today is the Snowflakes Sentiment. I'm going to be, of course, using the to and the from, and I'm going to be using this snowflake right here. Oh, I almost forgot, and I've got some black baker's twine that I'm going to be using. So I have my Simply Scored scoring tool, and I'm going to start out by putting my basic black cardstock in with the 8.5 across the top. And I have to tell you, the scoring on this project is so easy, you're not even going to believe it. So you're going to score at 3 inches and at 6. Then turn your cardstock to the 6.5 inch side and score at 3 inches and at 6. Now that is so super simple. We're going to do both sheets that way. I'm going to just go ahead and get all of my score lines folded and burnished using my bone folder. Okay, now I'm going to turn this so that my 3 inch squares are here at the bottom. These are 2.5 by 3. So I'm going to start out by showing you how to cut this. And what you're going to do is cut straight up this outside score line, stopping when you reach that first horizontal. Then snip off this piece and get rid of that. This will end up being the tab that will hold our box together. And then cut straight up this score line over to the right hand side of it. Stop at that first horizontal and then cut up the other side of the score line, stopping in the same place, and then there you go. So basically what you're doing here is just cutting away the score line. So you're going to cut this piece exactly the same. When you get finished, you'll have two pieces that look like this. I'm going to grab my fast fuse and put some right down here on this tab. Then I'm going to stick these two together and making sure that this tab is over here and the solid side I'm attaching to this tab. Line up your score lines, make sure the top is even, and adhere that down. You want to make sure that you can still see that score line. If you cannot, when you fold up your box, it's not going to fit together right, and you're going to have some cardstock that will hang over right there. So we need to do a little bit more scoring, and this is going to require my ruler, and I'm going to start out with my stylus. And what I'm going to do is on top of each of these are 3 inches apart, each of these score lines. I'm going to line my ruler up there so that my 3-inch mark is on this score line and my other end is either on the edge or a score line, and I'm just going to make a little indentation right there at 1.5 inches. I'm going to do that all the way across. Okay, so what you'll want to do now is put your stylus right here where these score lines cross over each other. Then line your ruler up against your stylus and find your little indentation you made up there, excuse me, and line your ruler up beside it and just make a diagonal score line just like that. Then you're going to swing your ruler to the other side and do the same thing right here. So again, line your stylus up right there and your ruler up against the stylus and your little mark at the top and score. So do this all the way across the top. Now I want to make sure that I have a score line on this little tab here to make it easier for when I fold up my box. So I'm going to find that center point right there that I made, and I can see through my paper. I'm sure you can't see it on camera, but I can tell where those score lines are right there. So I'm going to line that up, and I'm just going to score right here on this little tab because I do want it to be easy to fold when I am putting this together. Now for the next part, I'm just going to use my marker, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start out here on the edge first of all, and I'm just going to make a little dot right there, 1 inch down from the top. On each of those vertical score lines I'm going to come across and just make a light little dot at the 1 inch mark. If you don't have one of these Stampin' Chalk markers, you can use a gel pen, or if you make this on another color cardstock other than black, you could use a pencil or a pen or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and cut this first, and there's a couple of ways that you can do this. The first thing you want to keep in mind is you want to line your scissors up right there where the top point of that triangular shape is at the top of your paper, and you want to cut diagonally down to that little mark you just made. So you can do it that way all the way across, just lining up your scissors with the top of that and cutting down to that dot that you made. Or something that I like to do, which is a little bit quicker, is I fold my paper in half on that straight up and down vertical score line. That way I know that the tips of my little triangular shapes are even. I line my scissors up even with that and cut straight down, and that way I'm cutting out 2 at once. So that's my preference, but do this whichever way is easiest for you. Let me get all this out of the way. So now that I've got this done, this is what you're going to be left with at this point. Take your ruler, line that up with all these little marks that you made at first, which is 1 inch down. And now what you're wanting to do is every place that you have one of those diagonal score lines, make a mark right beside that along where your ruler placement is. These are the places where you're going to punch out holes for your ribbon to go through. And if you notice, I only did 3. I left 1 not marked. So I'm going to grab my 1/4 inch hole punch, and the reason I'm using the 1/4 inch is because I'm using a 3/8 of an inch ribbon, and I want my ribbon to be able to slide through these holes really easily. Now I have a heavy-duty punch here. I don't have just a regular 1/4 inch punch, and this is what I'm going to use. And when I get ready to punch, I can see down through that hole and see where that dot is, and that's where I'm going to punch. What you'll want to do is you want that hole that you punch to be on the outside of the score line, because if you punch past that score line, it's going to show on the outside of your box. So in other words, if you punch in the wrong place, your hole is going to show up out here on the outside of your box, and that is not what you want. So I'm just going to go across and punch the holes out all the way across my box. So we're ready to put the box together. So I'm going to put a piece of my fast fuse right down this tab. I'm going to fold that over. Fold this other piece over, lining everything up. And I see that I've got a little piece sticking out right there. I'm just going to trim that away. Now you can put your little tabs on the outside, or not tabs, but your panels on the outside of your box either before or after you assemble it. I'm going to do mine now, but you can do yours however you like to. I'm just going to use snail. Get that lined up in the center of all of those score lines. So the front of your box is going to be the portion that does not have the holes punched in it. So I'm going to go ahead at this point and start folding along these score lines. You can also do this part before you assemble your box if you'd like to. So I'm pushing in on that, getting those folded, and I have found a really easy way to do this, for me at least, is to get that paper going in, fold it flat, then use my bone folder and come in here and just crease both of those. So let me show you that again. Start folding this in and this one. Then once it's going the direction you want it to, just fold your box flat along that score line there. And that way you can come in with your bone folder and really crease those score lines really, really well. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do, I know that this is going to be the front of my box, so that is where I'm going to place my adhesive. I'm going to use my fast fuse for this, and I just like to put a piece up at the end and a piece down close to the fold. I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to fold the two sides in first, fold the back over, and then fold that front over. There we go. Next, we're ready for our ribbon. So I'm going to leave that on the spool. I'm just going to start by threading it through this hole from the outside to the inside, then go from the inside to the out, from the outside to the in, kind of like doing a shoe, like a tennis shoe or something. So you're just going to weave back and forth until you get all the way around. Then you're going to want to coax that box to go into the position you want it to be in. And if you need some more ribbon over here, then you can just pull some through like that. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and snip my ribbon off so that I can get this tied in a bow. So our box is now ready and put together. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to do my stamping and my embossing. So I think first of all, I'm going to do my to and from. And you know, I think I made a boo-boo in the beginning. I told you that you were just going to need one piece of scrap for your Pear Pizzazz, but you're actually going to need two pieces. One is going to be, where did it go? One is going to be for the tag on the front, and the other will be for the tag on the back. So I'm just going to use this one for the tag on the back. Stamp the to and from on there. Here's an additional piece. I'm going to take my embossing buddy, and I'm going to put some of that embossing buddy powder on there. Open my Versamark. And I have ordered a new one of these because this one is so stained, because I've had it, I don't know, a year, and I've cleaned it a couple of times, but somehow I always manage to have a stamp that has ink or something on it and I get it dirty. So I've ordered a new one so y'all don't have to look at this one all dirty looking. So I'm going to get my Snowflake all inked up really well in that Versamark, then stamp it down. I like to leave that sitting just for a second while I get my embossing powder open and my ink lid back on. I'm going to dip that in there and get that covered. Oh, that turned out really nice. Now I'm going to emboss this, but in the process I'm going to turn the sound off so that you don't have to hear my heat gun. See how pretty that turned out? I just love embossing. I'm going to be using my circle punches today. And I didn't even show these to you in the beginning of the video. My apologies. Now you can use your layering circles, framelits, if you have those and you don't have these punches, but I have these punches and it's really quick, so I thought I would just experiment with these. The to and the from I'm going to cut out with my 1.5 inch circle. I'm going to line it up so that the to and from is kind of over here on the left hand side and leaving me enough room to write on there. Then the 1 3/4 punch I'm going to punch out my snowflake with. Get that one centered up. And then my basic black, I'm going to punch a piece out with my 2 inch hole punch. What I'm going to do with this is grab my 1/8 inch hole punch. And I'm going to come down here, I don't know, that's probably about 1/4 inch or so, and punch a hole. Then I'm going to grab my basic black baker's twine. Boy, that was a mouthful to say. Say that about 3 or 4 times really fast. Alright, and then y'all, I've shown y'all this before, so if you followed me for any length of time, you have seen me do this at some point or another. I have this small little crochet hook. This is a 1.40 millimeter or a number 9 maybe. It doesn't have a letter on it. I know a lot of crochet hooks do. I'm going to place that through the hole in that cardstock, grab hold of my baker's twine and pull it back through that hole. Now you do not have to do yours this way. If you have a crochet hook, it makes this work so much easier, but of course you can just thread it through with your little fingers if that's what you have to work with. Alright, so I'm going to put a piece of snail on my to and from and get that stuck on one side of this tag. Then I'm going to use my dimensionals. I know that I want it going up and down like this. I'm going to put my dimensionals over here side to side so that I don't end up getting them stuck on top of that, because I don't want the dimensional to be showing through where I punched that hole by mistake. Then put that on there. Alright, then bring in the box. I almost forgot my rhinestone. Get that put in place. Then to attach this to my ribbon, just going to separate those, pull this down because I want it to hang down on the front of the box. And all I did was I wrapped my baker's twine back behind my bow here. And I will get this tied in a simple knot to keep that in place. Then I'm just going to snip off these little tails right here. And sometimes what I like to do is just try to tuck that in behind my bow if I can. So there we are. There's the one that I made previously, and this is the one that I just did for you. So I will have links to all of the featured supplies listed in the description box that's going to be below the video. So I want you to be sure though to head on over to my blog, because I'm going to have a complete list of supplies over there, and then I'll also have that printable instruction sheet which will have all of the measurements, all of the supplies, how to cut and score for this box. Everything you're going to need to know to make this box will be on that printable PDF. If you have trouble printing it, if it asks you for a password, it is not password protected. It just means that the reader that is on your device you're trying to print from needs to be updated to be compatible with the Adobe Reader that is associated with the PDF instruction sheet. So, thanks for stopping by today. I really do hope that you enjoyed the project, and if you did, I'd love for you to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you're not going to miss any of my paper crafting tutorial videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.